All right, I'm excited to bring in the newest addition to the WCC, Washington State head coach, David Riley. David, how's it going in your first few weeks or few months, I should say, and how's that transition been for you?
Yeah, no, it's been a whirlwind. It's been really fun getting to know everybody here, getting to meet the community in Pullman, and these last couple of weeks have been great. Just being able to work with the guys a little bit and see what we got, and it's been fun to get to work on the court.
Yeah, and you have a group that you've had to really kind of like retool the entire roster. As we know, there was a heavy turnover from the Kyle Smith season this past year. A lot of transfers heading out, which is not unusual for a lot of teams, unfortunately, at this stage of where we are in college basketball. But you also were able to kind of bring in some familiar faces as well. You brought 4 guys over with you from Eastern Washington. So as you've had these first few weeks of time with the guys on the court, how have you seen this group start to gel, and how excited are you for this group in your first season there?
Yeah, so it is a different deal than it was 5-10 years ago. Now taking over a new job, we were returning 2 players from last year's top 25 season at Washington State. So the beauty of it though is that there are 2 players that were on a top 25 team. They know what winning looks like. They know what a championship basketball team looks like, and so having Parker and Isaiah has been a huge help for me and for our staff to be able to kind of instill those winning values. And then the other piece of it for me, I've been a head coach for 3 years. It's not totally new to me. Like when I got the head coaching job at Eastern Washington, we lost our 7 leading scorers. We were able to build through the transfer portal and have a decent season that first year. And then that's where, our kind of developmental culture and the continuity helped us. And then we were able to win the league the next 2 years. And so I think, we're in a great spot where we do have some returning guys from last year's team. It is a huge help to be able to bring my 4 Eastern guys over and just have some continuity. They know the terminology. They know what the schedule looks like. They know how practices are structured. And so, on paper, for sure, it looks like a total rebuild. But then when you actually get here in the gym, these guys are competing in week 2 like they've known each other for years. And so I think some of that familiarity has really helped. And then we're just able to adjust to the new times.
Having those 4 come over, like bringing over LeJean Watts, Ethan Price, Cedric Howard, Dane Erickstrop. During your intro press conference, you talked about family, trust, and commitment being kind of like the 3 pillars you wanted to build your program off of. How much have like those 4, knowing what you were able to do these past 2 years at Eastern Washington, has helped kind of like the early stages of what you're trying to do there with the Cougars?
Man, it's been great. Like, I think we do things a little different. We spend a lot of time together. Like I'm in the office a lot. Our coaching staff's in the office a lot. And so our returners, or our Eastern guys kind of understand, like, hey, we can just go hang out. It doesn't have to be like some, principal office talk every time I go to the office. It doesn't have to be a film session that's negative every time we go in there. It's like, there's real relationships here. They're kind of encouraging the other guys to come along. They're really developing that chemistry that we had at Eastern Washington, which is huge. Like that's the family piece is where it all starts. If you look at this like work, then it's not going to be an enjoyable process because we spend so much time together, and you're not able to get that extra, 2-3% that you need out of these days if you're really trying to get out of here and just punch a time card. So I think they've done a great job instilling that. And then, I think it's just the guys that we've brought in, the 2 guys that are returning, they've all bought into that as well. And they understand what we're trying to get out of this. They understand the values. And so it's been a really fun first couple of weeks of just everyone being on the same page and just fighting to build that chemistry, to build the family environment. And then that's how you build trust. You show that you're committed by doing that over and over. So I think, those values have been brought in a little quicker by having the Eastern boys. But at the end of the day, like it's just all about showing them who you are every single day. And I think that's been the fun part of the last couple of weeks.
And you had obviously quite a bit of success with those guys at Eastern, back-to-back Big Sky championships. In the regular season, and we also have seen in the WCC a few guys that are from Eastern who have had success. Tyler Robertson, Mike Meadows, Steel Venters coming over, all guys you're familiar with, and um, seeing like those guys have success in this league. Obviously, league wise, it's a step up for you, and Washington State obviously it's a transition as well. Seeing the success that those guys have been able to have at different levels, at higher levels, is that kind of like an additional selling point to the guys coming over? It's like, hey, it's like these guys were able to be successful at a higher level as they came over. And this is, again, another step up, and they get to be together as they kind of make that transition.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of this thing is we've got a bunch of guys that are underdogs. Like you can look at our Washington State team this year. Like every single one of these guys has been counted out to some extent, right? Like you know, Parker and Isaiah were both guys that weren't recruited very high until late in their recruiting process. Isaiah had to go to prep school. Parker was coming in, kind of in that late scholarship spot, and so those guys they've got a chip on their shoulder and they develop. Like our Eastern guys, none of them are supposed to. Like Dane was a D2 player before he got to Eastern. Cedric was a D3 player. Luan and Ethan ended up coming here. Ethan's a little different story, but like they all kind of came in here not expected to produce. And 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we lost our 7 leading scorers. Guys stepped up in this program. 2 years ago, we lose Steel Venters. We lose Angelo Allegri to the G League. We lost like 40 points per game. All these guys came in and developed. And that's the beauty of seeing the Tyler Robertson go to the WCC and produce. Like Coach Jake Groves and Tanner Groves and these guys that have gone Steel Venters that have gone to higher levels and done the right things. And so it just helps the guys kind of buy in when they understand that this has been done before. This process works. If you stick to the blueprint, like we've got a plan that's really exciting. And then I think that helps kind of clarify that yes, this is a plan that has success. But the other piece is like the chemistry. Like in this day and age, these players are getting thrown a lot of money. And so the plan was for all these guys to stay at Eastern because they valued the development, they valued the family atmosphere, they valued each other. They knew we had something special going on. And they were turning down a lot of money to stay there. And so I just think like that mindset and now being able to come to Washington State with our family, like it's a really cool thing to be able to put it all together. And now it's kind of on us to keep that chip on our shoulder and make sure that we're ready to show the WCC because, the reality is like, we're going to be picked in the middle of the pack. Like there's some really, really good teams. There's some really, really good coaches that have done a lot more than we have. And so we got a lot to prove.
Now coming over, obviously there is one coach in the WCC you're obviously very familiar with, and that's Shante Leggins, who was your head coach for a few years there while you were still at Eastern. He was the head coach. What sort of conversation, because I did hear you talk a little bit about mention Shante in your intro press conference about kind of the role he's kind of played in your growth as a head coach. Have you had any conversations with him since you took the job, and what has that been like in those combos?
Yeah, we talk a lot. Shante and I came up in the business together. Like I think it was 10 years that we worked together at Eastern. He was there. We were both assistants together at first, and then I was able to work for him for 4, 5, 6 years. I have no idea. Yeah, it's all a blur. But just kind of being able to talk to him about the adjustments that he had to the WCC. We're always picking each other's brains about what we're putting in the summer and what kind of guys we're recruiting, what kind of guys fit. And so I think we both want each other to have success. Obviously, there'll be twice a year where we're competing and it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see how that goes. I've competed against Shante in some one-on-one and some noon hoops in pickleball or in a pickup ball, but like I haven't done a real basketball game against him. So it's going to be fun to see how that goes. But no, he's been really helpful. Their staff's been great. Still close to those guys and just kind of going on the road these last couple of weeks, meeting some of the other WCC coaches in the league has been great for me to kind of get to see what this place is all about. And this is exciting league to join.
And obviously being up in the Pacific Northwest and being specifically in Eastern Washington, you kind of have had that one of them in the shot. They're kind of right there in Gonzaga, as you kind of like looked at the way they've kind of built that program as kind of being the kind of marquee program of the WCC. What have you been able to take, or have you had maybe like interactions with Mark Few on like how like how they've been able to kind of sustain their success, and what you might be able to transfer over to what you do at Washington State?
Yeah, Gonzaga's been a program that I've studied a lot. I grew up um, loving Adam Morrison. Like he was a player that I really liked when I was in high school. And so ever since then, I've kind of been a Gonzaga fan. When I started coaching, I really studied Gonzaga's offense. Like I think the way they conceptualize their offense, and they don't necessarily have a bunch of sets, but they're playing through concepts. I think we've adapted that a lot. I got close with Tommy Lloyd, who was a huge help to me building some international connections. And when I was just getting into the business, he took the time to, grab a drink with me and talk me through some of that stuff. And anytime I've had questions the last couple of years, he's been able to help me. And so a lot of those Brian Michelson, a lot of those coaches that have been at Gonzaga have been great help to me. And I've watched a ton of their film. I actually don't know Mark Few, but like just their program, their shadow, the influence they have in Spokane has been something that I've admired, and I think they do a great job. And we're just trying to do some of the stuff they do that makes them successful, but then also be the best version of ourselves.
And now you talked about this Washington State position being a dream job for you. And can you talk about a little bit of like what were some of like the key components of like what was it about Washington State that kind of made it that for you, and being obviously like it, because it really seemed like one of the big components that you've spent so much time obviously in that region, and they being one of the marquee programs of that area. But yeah, talk a little bit more about what that means in your mind.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love the Pacific Northwest. I did grow up in California. I'm still not totally used to the cold. I just stay in the gym and stay in the car during the winter. But like I love the Northwest. I've spent a lot of time. My family's from up here originally, so I think that's one piece of it. I value the idea of a state school. Like I've been lucky enough to experience. I went to a private college. I went to a public high school, and worked at Eastern Washington. I just really, really value what Eastern brought to that community, and then seeing what Washington State brings to this community and the state in general. It's like it's a huge thing. I think it's a necessary thing to keep the people in this state educated, give them a chance. Like this is a institution that does a lot for the state, and so I can get behind that. There's other colleges that I don't necessarily totally agree with all their values, and so to have a place that I can, number one, agree with the values of the school. I love the area that we're in. I think we can win at a national level. Like this is a place where you look at the facilities, you look at the support, you look at the alumni base. Like there's a real passion for this university. Like it checks a lot of boxes for me. And then the last piece is like a college town is amazing for how I want to run a program. It kind of self-selects guys that are really serious about the game. Like if you're going to college because you want to go to the beach, or you want to have a big nightlife, or you want to go to the cities, like, that's not necessarily what our basketball program is about. Like we're about being in the gym and building a family and getting better. Like this is a really, really clear thing why you're coming to Pullman. And I think once you understand that and you embrace it, it's a beautiful thing. And so the college town is a great piece to it as well. And so there's just so many boxes this place has checked for me. And then hopefully I can kind of show everyone why this is a beautiful place and what we've got going here. And I think that in the past, there's been some coaches that have had a ton of success here, and that's not by accident.
So as you start to think about like your transition there and everything else, moving from Spokane down to the Pullman area, where maybe some places actually, as WCC people start to make that trip to Pullman, like what are some maybe like your favorite go-to restaurant or something like that? Because again, like I'm, as someone who like will try to make some of these trips, I'm always looking like, all right, where do I got to go to eat? Where can I find a good spot? Because that's like almost number one for me is where to go.
I got you. Well, the Coug got some good burgers. I know that. Um, and we've been all over the place. They got a steakhouse, Black Cypress here that's been really really good. Man, there's so many restaurants that have taken care of us and shown us a great time. When we have recruits out, when we have our players, we go to a lot of team meals, after practices and stuff. And so it's a really cool college town. There's good restaurants. They got some good Mexican joints here. And I've enjoyed just kind of getting to see everything. I don't feel like I'm qualified yet to give you all the recommendations. I'm only 2 months in, so when you come up, I'll have some better answers for you.
Yeah, we'll add to the Rolodex of all the places to go. Got a few months, quite a few months before we get to basketball season.
Yeah.
Coach Riley, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for having a chat with me. Washington State is only within their first few days of being in the WCC, but the first of 2 years at minimum in the WCC, Washington State joining the conference. Once again, thanks, Coach, for hopping on, and we'll definitely catch up down the road.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Talk soon.